Have you ever scrolled through your social media feed and felt a strange sense of unease while looking at a photo? Maybe the colors looked a bit too perfect or the lighting seemed slightly off, but you could not quite put your finger on why. It is a feeling many of us share today as we move through a digital world that feels increasingly like a house of mirrors. We are surrounded by images and videos that look real but are actually products of complex math and computer code. This can make us feel like we are losing our grip on the truth. We feel a bit like people who are being held against our will by a technology we do not fully understand. We worry that we can no longer trust our own eyes. But there is a way to look closer and find the truth hidden in the pixels. By understanding how these digital creations are made, we can reclaim our sense of reality. We can move from being confused spectators to being smart detectives of the digital age. This journey is about learning to see the invisible fingerprints left behind by artificial intelligence. It is about understanding that even the most powerful machines still have to follow certain rules. Let us explore how we can find our way back to a world where we know what is real and what is just a clever imitation. On the surface, many people think that identifying an artificial image is about finding obvious mistakes. We look for a person with 6 fingers or a strange blur in the background. The surface concept is that if an image looks good enough, it must be true. We tend to judge authenticity based on how much an image moves our emotions. If a photo makes us feel angry or happy, we often stop questioning it. We see a picture of a dramatic event and our first instinct is to share it with our friends. This is the simple level of interaction where we treat digital content like a window into the world. However, this window is becoming more like a painting every day. We often think that a computer creates an image from scratch, but it actually learns by taking a real photo and slowly turning it into static. It is like taking a beautiful painting and throwing sand on it until you can no longer see the art. Then the computer tries to learn how to sweep the sand away to find the picture underneath. This surface understanding is a good start, but it does not tell the whole story of why these images feel so strange to us. Behind our confusion lies a hidden assumption that technology is a perfect mimic of our world. We often assume that if a computer can write a poem or paint a face, it must also understand the laws of nature. We assume that because the image looks pretty, it must also be physically correct. But the hidden truth is that artificial intelligence does not actually know how the world works. It does not understand gravity or light or how objects occupy space. It only understands patterns of data. It is like a very talented artist who has never been outside. They can paint a tree because they have seen thousands of pictures of trees, but they do not know that a tree needs roots or that shadows must follow the sun. This hidden gap between pattern matching and physical reality is where we can find the truth. We assume the machine is smarter than it is, when in reality it is just a very good guesser. It is guessing what a pixel should look like based on other pixels, but it often ignores the fundamental rules of the universe. This brings us to a structural pattern that exists in almost every artificial image. This pattern is a violation of the basic geometry and physics that govern our daily lives. Think about how lines work in the real world. If you look down a long hallway, the walls seem to move toward a single point in the distance. This is called a vanishing point, and it is a rule of how we see space. In an artificial image, these lines often do not meet at a single point. They wander off in different directions because the computer is not thinking about the 3D shape of the room. Another structural pattern can be found in shadows. In our world, shadows are tied to the light source. If there is one sun in the sky, all shadows should point away from it in a consistent way. But a computer often puts shadows where they look good rather than where they belong. It might place a shadow at one angle for a person and a completely different angle for a chair. There is also a structural sign called noise. Every real camera leaves a tiny bit of grain or fuzz on a photo. Artificial intelligence leaves its own kind of noise, which often looks like tiny star patterns hidden deep in the pixels. These structural errors are like the cracks in a fake diamond. They are small, but once you know where to look, they tell you everything you need to know. We can reframe our entire perspective by seeing ourselves not as victims of technology but as active participants in a healthier digital world. Instead of feeling like hostages to fake news, we can reframe our curiosity as a superpower. We can choose to be the person who stops and thinks before hitting the share button. This perspective shifts the power back to us. We can see the act of verifying an image as a way of protecting our friends and our families. It is like picking up litter in a digital park. When we choose not to share something that looks suspicious, we are helping to clean up the information we all breathe. We should reframe our relationship with our screens as a partnership where we provide the critical thinking that the computer lacks. We are the ones with the lived experience of gravity and light. We are the ones who know what a real sunset feels like. By trusting our internal sense of physical reality, we can become much harder to fool. This reframing turns a scary technological shift into an opportunity to become more observant and more thoughtful. Applying this to your daily life starts with a very simple and powerful action. Take a breath. When you see a post that makes you feel a strong emotion, wait for just 10 seconds. This small pause allows your logical brain to catch up with your feelings. You can apply the detective skills we discussed by looking at the details. Check the lines on the walls or the way the shadows fall on the ground. Ask yourself if the scene makes sense in the physical world. If you see a crowd of people, look at their hands or the text on their shirts. Often these small areas are where the computer struggles most. You can also apply this by using the many tools available online that help check if an image has been changed or generated by a machine. But the most important application is social. We can decide to be honest with our colleagues and our loved ones. If you are not sure if something is real, do not pass it on as truth. It is okay to say that you do not know. By being careful with what we say and what we show, we build a stronger community of trust. We can also teach our children and our older relatives how to look for these signs. This creates a circle of protection around the people we care about most. As we think more deeply about this, it is clear that we are at a turning point in history. For a long time we believed that seeing was believing. A photo was considered proof that something happened. Now that is no longer true. This change is difficult because it requires us to work harder to find the truth. But this extra work might actually make us better at communicating. When we can no longer rely on a single image to tell the whole story, we have to talk to each other more. We have to look for multiple sources and listen to different points of view. This could lead to a world where we value deep understanding over quick headlines. We are learning that the truth is not just something we see but something we build through careful thought and honest sharing. The star-like patterns and the broken shadows are not just technical errors. They are reminders that there is a limit to what machines can do. They remind us that the human spirit and the physical world have a complexity that cannot be fully captured by code. We are the guardians of the real world. Every time we choose truth over a viral lie, we are making a stand for our shared future. We are not just looking at pictures on a screen, we are deciding what kind of world we want to live in. We are moving toward a future where our eyes are wide open and our minds are sharp. If you found a way to see through every lie on the internet, would you use that power to simply protect yourself, or would you use it to help rebuild the trust of everyone around you?